Hi, everyone. I'm Don McCormick, Chief Storyteller here at CITTA Brokerage, a customs brokerage specializing in duty drawback. And today I'm speaking with CITTA Brokerage CEO, Scott Sorensen. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Don.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
So, for people who don't know a whole lot about duty drawback, can you give us a high level overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So, duty drawback is a refund of duties that are paid on products imported to the United States. So, about 50% of products that come into the United States pay some type of duty or tariff on those items when those are imported. And we've seen a real increase in those duties over the last 5 or 6 years with what are called the 301 tariffs that have been put in place on China. So, products come into the United States, oftentimes they pay a duty or a tariff. And when those products later leave the United States, they can qualify for what is called a duty drawback or a refund on the duties that are paid, up to 99% of the duties that are paid when they leave the United States.
And that applies to all duties, not just the 301 tariffs, correct?
Well, there are some duties that will be put on products when they come in. Anti-dumping and countervailing duties; those don't qualify for duty drawback, but that's something that we work with our clients to better understand. Like, okay, are these duties that do qualify for drawbacks? But yes, 301 duties in general do qualify for
Mm-hmm.
drawbacks.
So it depends on how they're classified, really.
Correct.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you probably, well, there's a lot of products coming in the United States, a lot of products coming out, going out. So what kind of companies does CETA Brokerage typically work with?
Great question. So we work with companies across a variety of industries, and I would classify it as anything from car parts and to clothing and apparel to makeup to medical devices, healthcare. I mean, any industry that is importing
Hmm.
products that are later leaving the United States, we work with those companies across industries. Another way of classifying who we're working with companies that bring products into the United States to manufacture other products that they are later exporting. We're also working with clients that are just bringing products in and later reselling them. Those are identified as unused goods or unused merchandise that comes in the United
Hmm.
States and then leaves. So you could classify it as manufacturing companies as well as wholesalers or distributors that bring products in, they don't
Hmm.
touch it, and they resell it internationally.
That's a fairly wide variety of different types of industries that you're working in. So what makes filing claims and doing all the paperwork and all this stuff related to duty drawback so challenging?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that make it challenging. One thing that happens with duty drawback is with the new changes to drawback regulations, the TIFTIA regulations is what we call it allows you to go back in time 5 years to file drawbacks for duties that were paid going back as far as 5 years. So one of the first challenges that we find working with clients is just collecting the documents needed to recoup the maximum amount possible. And that would be going back the full 5 years. So I think that's one piece is the record keeping and gathering the necessary documents.
So they could see almost an immediate return on investment by recouping the money they've left on the table for the last 5 years, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's money that is just going uncaptured. So customs and the US Treasury, they don't report a lot on how much is being left on the table, but the last report that they issued about 6 years ago showed that about $3 billion a year was eligible for duty drawback, and less
Hmm.
than $1 billion was actually being captured in duty drawback. And so essentially what that's saying is that there are a lot of importers and exporters that just aren't capturing these funds that are available. Sometimes that's because it's
Hmm.
complicated, and sometimes it's just because they're not aware that those funds are available for them to collect. And that's where we step in
Hmm.
and try to help educate them on the process And since it's all that we do is to file duty drawback, we try to make it as simple as possible
Hmm.
to move through these complexities.
So some have an awareness. Some may have tried it on their own. They tried to navigate that on their own. Um, and I'm guessing that unsuccessful claims, those that don't go through, have a negative ROI in terms of the resources that were spent. So how does CETA ensure that that juice truly is worth the squeeze? That when you do a claim, it's going to get processed and going to get approved.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Even before we process the claim, we spend time working with our clients to understand at a high level, okay, what documentation do you have and what's available? And what is the feasibility of filing a claim? And there are some times where they may not have the information that they need, or it's just too difficult to collect going back historically. And with those clients, we'll talk to them about, okay, going forward, let's make sure you are capturing these funds. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the documents that you should be collecting on a regular basis and working with your customs brokerage or with your freight forwarders or other partners um, to collect these necessary documents. So even though going back historically, you may not be able to recoup the full amount, going forward, we want to make sure that you are. So I think that's the first piece that
Mm-hmm.
we do, Don, is to try to make sure that we're not
Mm-hmm.
bringing someone on board and trying to file claims if it's a wild goose chase, so to speak, to collect the documents that they need. The next piece that you talked about is once we've filed the claim, how do we make sure that it goes through? And there are a couple things that we like to do there. One is, again, making sure that we've got the correct documentation because customs is going to go through a pretty thorough process, what's called a full desk review, to analyze claims on a frequent basis. And so one thing we want to
Mm-hmm.
do is make sure that we have all the backup that we need before submitting a claim. And then when customs does come back and say, hey, before we pay out this duty drawback, we need verification or this audit or full desk review on these claims filed. One thing that we do at CETA is we maintain that interaction and that relationship
Mm-hmm.
with customs. So our clients are not going back and sitting at the table or across the table from customs on their own. We're sitting right beside them, and we're working with customs to make sure that they have all the information that they need to
Mm-hmm.
approve the claim.
So let's talk more about ROI. I'm sure that each company is different. Each type of duty drawback claims filing is different. But as a rule, how do you ensure that your clients see a positive ROI?
Yeah, so some of that comes back to the analysis up front that we will perform in determining, okay, does it make sense to go backwards in time versus just going from this point forward? Some of it is that initial analysis that we just talked about. The other side of it is we really like to view this as a partnership with our clients where we're getting paid together at the same time from the US Treasury.
Hmm.
And so what we try to do is set it up so the payment terms we're aligned, where we're not saying, hey, we need this upfront fee or uh, or these additional expenses that you're incurring. Yes, there will be some time required for it, but again, from a payment standpoint, we try to create a partnership with our clients in such a way that we're getting paid at the same time and minimizing any cash outflows that they may see.
I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about interfacing with your clients' existing brokers, right?
Yes.
So you're not in competition with those other brokers. You're just providing a very targeted service when it comes to duty drawback. Is that how I understand
That's
that?
exactly right. We're not coming in and trying to start with filing duty drawback and then later moving up to do your classification work and to clear items and products that you're bringing to the United
Mm-hmm.
States. So we have a great relationship with other customs brokers that may not
Mm-hmm.
be experts and may not be specializing in duty drawback the way that
Mm-hmm.
we are. And so we work well with those other customs brokers that have an existing relationship with these clients to collect docs and make sure that their clients, our collective clients, are maximizing their drawback potential.
Well, that sounds like a really strong and valuable partnership, not only with your clients, but also with the other brokerages that they work with. Thanks so much for speaking with us today, Scott.
Thank you, Don. It's great to talk, and we're eager to get the message out that we're here to help our clients by simplifying the complexities of duty drawback and maximizing the money that they put back into their business.
And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today. If you are an importer or exporter of record, see what CITTA Brokerage can do for you by visiting CITTABrokerage.com. And while you're there, you can even use an online calculator to get an estimate of your of refund duties that may come to you. Thanks very much, everyone. Again, Scott, thanks so much.
Thank you, Don.